What most people don't realize is that every single bite you put in your mouth has an immediate consequence. It's not neutral. It's either moving you toward health or pushing you toward disease. Think about that for a second. When you eat a sugary snack, it's not just satisfying your taste buds for a moment. It's spiking your insulin, inflaming your arteries, and laying down the groundwork for more damage. On the other hand, when you choose real food, nutrient-dense food, that same bite can lower inflammation, stabilize your blood sugar, and actually start reversing the damage that's been building up. For years, that's how powerful food is. It's not about calories, it's not about portion control, it's about chemistry. You're either feeding disease or you're feeding life. There is no in-between. So, what does that best meal actually look like? It's not complicated, it's not exotic, and it doesn't come out of a package with a long list of ingredients you can't pronounce. It's built on whole, real foods that your body actually recognizes. When you fill your plate with leafy greens, quality protein, and healthy fats, you're giving your body the exact tools it needs to repair itself. These foods don't just fill you up, they send powerful signals to your cells, telling them to burn fat instead of storing it, to calm down inflammation instead of feeding it, to stabilize blood sugar instead of spiking it. That's why this one simple meal works better than any medication, because it addresses the root cause, not just the symptoms. When you eat this way, your body finally has a chance to do what it's designed to do: heal. Now, let's zero in on those cruciferous vegetables: kale, broccoli, spinach, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. These aren't just filler on your plate, they're medicinal foods. They're packed with phytonutrients, antioxidants, and compounds like sulforaphane that actually help detoxify the liver, reduce arterial plaque, and repair the very insulin resistance that drives type 2 diabetes. They're low in sugar, high in fiber, and they feed the good bacteria in your gut, which then produce compounds that further protect your heart and balance blood sugar. Every time you load your plate with these greens, you're literally scrubbing your arteries from the inside out and turning off the inflammation that keeps you stuck in a disease cycle. It's like giving your body an internal reset button just by choosing the right vegetables. And then we have healthy fats. This is where most people get it completely wrong. For decades, we've been told to fear fat, to avoid butter, olive oil, or salmon, thinking they clog arteries. But the truth is, the right fats don't damage your heart, they protect it. When you eat avocado, olive oil, coconut oil, or wild-caught salmon, you're giving your body the raw materials it needs to build healthy cell membranes, reduce inflammation, and stabilize hormones. These fats don't spike insulin. Instead, they slow digestion, keeping your blood sugar steady and your energy levels consistent. Omega-3s from salmon or sardines literally thin the blood, reduce clot risk, and calm down the chronic inflammation that leads to both heart disease and diabetes. Healthy fats are not the enemy, they are the fuel your body has been craving all along. Protein is another piece of the puzzle that people underestimate. When you choose nutrient-dense proteins like eggs, grass-fed beef, or sardines, you're not just eating to feel full. You're providing your body with the amino acids it needs to repair tissue, rebuild muscle, and even support brain function. These proteins don't send your blood sugar on a roller coaster. Instead, they help keep it stable, which is critical if you're trying to reverse type 2 diabetes. And here's the key: when your body gets high-quality protein, you naturally feel satisfied, so you don't keep reaching for snacks or sugar. That sense of satiety is what helps break the cycle of cravings that drives both weight gain and insulin resistance. So, protein isn't just about muscles. It's about giving your body the building blocks it needs to restore balance and heal from the inside out. The real breakthrough happens when you cut out refined carbs and sugar. That's the switch that flips everything. The moment you stop bombarding your body with hidden sugars from bread, pasta, soda, cereals, and processed snacks, your insulin levels begin to drop. And insulin is the master hormone driving type 2 diabetes, weight gain, and even heart disease. When insulin is high, your body is locked into fat storage mode. You can't burn fat. Your arteries stay inflamed, and your blood sugar keeps spiking. But when you remove those refined carbs, it's like lifting a heavy burden off your system. Suddenly, your body doesn't have to fight constant sugar surges, and it can finally shift into repair mode. That one decision, to eliminate sugar and refined carbs, is often the single most powerful step anyone can take to start reversing years of damage. And once insulin finally comes down, that's when the magic begins. Your body can now unlock its fat reserves and start burning them for energy instead of constantly storing them. The inflammation in your arteries begins to calm, which means the progression of plaque slows down and, in many cases, can even start to reverse. Blood vessels become more flexible, circulation improves, and your heart no longer has to work against that constant pressure. It's like taking your body out of emergency mode and putting it back into healing mode. Lower insulin doesn't just mean lower blood sugar. It means a full system reset where your metabolism wakes up, your energy returns, and your risk for heart disease drops dramatically. When insulin finally drops, your body starts operating the way it was designed to. Suddenly, fat that was locked away in storage becomes available as fuel, and you begin burning it around the clock. This isn't just about losing weight, it's about lowering the very fuel that feeds inflammation in your arteries. With less insulin, plaque buildup slows down, the lining of your blood vessels can begin to heal, and circulation improves dramatically. Your heart doesn't have to push against constant resistance anymore. At the same time, lower insulin reduces fluid retention and blood pressure, so the stress on your cardiovascular system goes down. It's like your entire internal environment shifts from being stuck in damage mode to finally moving into repair and restoration. When you make this kind of meal a consistent part of your life, that's when you start seeing the real transformation. It's not about eating it once or twice. It's about repeating it daily so your body has a stable environment to heal in. Over time, blood pressure naturally comes down because your arteries are less inflamed and more elastic. Blood sugar levels smooth out because you're no longer hitting your system with constant spikes. Triglycerides normalize as your liver stops converting excess sugar into fat. And you feel the difference, not just in lab numbers, but in your energy, your clarity of mind, and your ability to go through the day without crashing. Consistency is the secret weapon. One nutrient-dense, balanced meal doesn't just feed you in the moment. It sets off a chain reaction that compounds day after day, rebuilding your health from the inside out. People often ask me, do I really have to starve myself to fix my health? Do I need to go on some extreme crash diet or live on bland foods for the rest of my life? And the answer is absolutely not. Healing your body is not about starving, punishing yourself, or feeling deprived. It's not about counting every calorie or obsessing over how much food is on your plate. It's about aligning the foods you eat with the way your body is designed to function. When you do that, you stop fighting against your biology and instead you work with it. That's when things become effortless. You see, the traditional approach that most people have been told, low fat diets, calorie restriction, constant grazing on small meals, actually goes against the natural design of your metabolism. That's why so many people feel miserable, hungry all the time, and eventually give up. Their bodies are screaming for fuel, but the type of fuel they're giving it is wrong. Think of your body like a car engine. If you keep pouring in the wrong type of fuel, it doesn't matter how disciplined you are, that engine will sputter, stall, and break down. The same is true for your heart and your blood sugar. When you eat real foods, nutrient-rich vegetables, high-quality proteins, and healthy fats, you're no longer forcing your body to run on cheap, dirty fuel. You're giving it premium, grade energy that burns clean, keeps your insulin low, and doesn't produce the damaging byproducts that come from refined carbs and sugars. That means your energy is steady throughout the day. You don't need to snack every 2 hours. You're not dealing with that 3 p.m. crash that sends you running for coffee or sweets. Instead, you feel clear, alert, and calm because your body is operating on fat as its primary fuel source, which is far more efficient. This is where the big misunderstanding comes in. People think reversing heart disease and type 2 diabetes is about extreme sacrifice. They think they have to give up all enjoyment of food, but the truth is, once you switch to eating in harmony with your biology, food actually becomes more satisfying. Imagine sitting down to a plate of wild, caught salmon drizzled with olive oil, alongside a large serving of sautéed kale and garlic, maybe with a side of creamy avocado. That's not deprivation, that's delicious. And the best part is, it's healing your arteries, stabilizing your blood sugar, and lowering your insulin while you enjoy every bite. Now let's talk about the myth of calorie restriction. This is where so many diets fail. If you simply reduce calories but keep eating refined carbs, your insulin remains high. That means you're still locked in fat storage mode, you're still inflamed, and you're still progressing toward disease even though you're eating less. So you feel hungry, tired, and frustrated, and the scale hardly moves. That's why people bounce from diet to diet. They're focusing on the wrong lever. It's not about eating less, it's about eating right. Once you remove sugar and processed carbs, your insulin drops, and your body finally has access to stored fat. Suddenly, you don't have to rely on constant eating because your body is tapping into its own reserves. You could go hours, even skip a meal, and still feel fine because you're not running on unstable sugar spikes. You're running on steady fat burning. And this is why people who eat this way often find themselves naturally eating less without even trying. They're not forcing themselves to restrict food. Their bodies are simply satisfied. Hunger is no longer controlling them, cravings are no longer driving them, and that constant mental battle with food just disappears. Let's go deeper on cravings because this is a huge barrier for people. Sugar cravings are not just about willpower, they're about biochemistry. When you eat sugar and refined carbs, your blood sugar spikes and then crashes. That crash triggers your brain to demand more sugar, setting off an endless cycle. It's like being stuck on a roller coaster that you can't get off. But when you switch to nutrient-dense meals with lots of greens, healthy fats, and proteins, you stabilize insulin and blood sugar. And when that happens, cravings start to vanish. Your brain is no longer sending emergency signals for quick fuel. Instead, it feels nourished, calm, and balanced. That's why people who transition into this way of eating are often shocked at how quickly their sugar cravings disappear. What felt impossible before suddenly feels easy, almost natural, because they're no longer fighting against their own biology. Another important point is that this way of eating doesn't just heal the body, it also heals your relationship with food. Most people have been taught to see food as the enemy. They think of it as something they have to restrict, something that sabotages them. But when you realize food is medicine, that every bite is either hurting you or healing you, your perspective changes. You start to see meals as opportunities to build health, not as temptations to resist, and that shift in mindset is incredibly powerful. It takes you out of a place of constant struggle and puts you into a place of empowerment. Now, let's tie this back to heart disease. One of the biggest drivers of heart problems is inflammation in the arterial walls. That inflammation is triggered by high insulin, high blood sugar, and the damage caused by refined carbs and unhealthy oils. When you stop feeding your body those destructive foods and instead give it the right fuel, the inflammation begins to calm. The arteries stop stiffening, plaque progression slows, and in some cases, the body can even start reabsorbing that plaque. The heart doesn't have to fight against stiff, inflamed arteries anymore. Blood pressure comes down naturally without the side effects of medication because the root cause is being addressed. And with type 2 diabetes, the same principle applies. Diabetes is not just about high blood sugar, it's about insulin resistance. When your cells are constantly exposed to high insulin, they stop responding to it. That's when sugar gets trapped in the blood instead of moving into the cells, and the vicious cycle begins. But by eating in harmony with your biology, cutting out refined carbs, stabilizing insulin, and fueling with proteins, fats, and greens, you're allowing your cells to regain sensitivity. Over time, your body needs less and less insulin to manage blood sugar until eventually you no longer fit the definition of diabetes. That's why we can say type 2 diabetes is reversible, not managed reversed. Here's the beauty of it, this isn't complicated. You don't need to memorize long lists of forbidden foods or obsess over portion sizes. You just need to focus on a few principles. Remove sugar and refined carbs, eat nutrient-dense vegetables, add healthy fats, and include high-quality protein. That's it. If you build your meals around those elements, you're automatically doing the most powerful thing you can to heal your heart and reverse diabetes. And unlike medications, this approach doesn't just mask symptoms. Drugs can lower blood sugar, but they don't fix insulin resistance. They can reduce blood pressure, but they don't heal inflamed arteries. At best, they manage the problem while the underlying damage continues. But when you eat in a way that lowers insulin naturally, reduces inflammation, and nourishes your body, you're going to the root cause. You're not just managing disease, you're eliminating it. Think about what that means for your life. No more living in fear of heart attacks or strokes. No more being chained to medications with endless side effects. No more feeling like your health is a ticking time bomb. Instead, you have energy, mental clarity, and confidence because you know your body is repairing itself. That's what happens when you stop fighting against your biology and start working with it. And here's something most people don't realize: your body wants to heal. It's designed to heal. Every single day, your cells are working to repair damage, clean up waste, and restore balance. The only reason disease persists is because the wrong foods keep interrupting that process. But when you give your body the right foods, you remove those roadblocks, and suddenly healing that seemed impossible becomes not only possible, but inevitable. So, no, you don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to count every calorie. You don't need to feel deprived. What you need is the right information and the willingness to make consistent choices that align with your biology. When you do that, reversing heart disease and type 2 diabetes stops being some distant dream. It becomes your reality. Most people underestimate the power of doing one thing consistently. They think health transformation has to be complicated, that it requires dozens of supplements, endless rules, or constant tracking. But here's the truth: one simple meal, repeated consistently, can create a ripple effect so profound that it changes the entire trajectory of your health. It's not about perfection, and it's not about variety for the sake of variety. It's about building a solid foundation your body can rely on every single day. Think about it this way. If you eat 3 times a day, that's 21 meals a week. Multiply that by a month, and you're looking at over 80 opportunities to either feed disease or feed health. Now imagine if the majority of those meals were built on the same principles: nutrient, dense greens, quality proteins, and healthy fats. Even if you had a slip here and there, your body would still be moving steadily in the right direction because consistency beats intensity. One clean meal won't change much, but dozens and hundreds strung together over weeks and months will completely reset your metabolism. Here's where most people get stuck. They want quick results. They want the weight gone tomorrow, the blood sugar normalized in a week, the cholesterol perfect after a single change. And when they don't see instant results, they give up. But your body is not a machine that instantly flips from sick to healthy. It's more like a garden. When you plant seeds, you don't dig them up the next day to check if they're growing. You water them, nurture them, and trust the process. The results show up with time, and once they do, they compound. In the same way, eating that one best meal is like planting healing seeds every day. You may not notice the changes immediately, but beneath the surface, your body is rewiring itself, repairing cells, balancing hormones, and building a foundation of health that lasts. Consistency also removes decision fatigue. Have you noticed how exhausting it is to constantly debate what you should or shouldn't eat? Every social event, every grocery run, every restaurant menu feels like a battlefield. But when you simplify, when you anchor your lifestyle to one consistent meal, you take away all that mental struggle. Your brain relaxes, your willpower isn't drained, and eating becomes simple again. You know what works, you know what nourishes you, and you stick to it. That kind of clarity is liberating, and let me tell you something fascinating. The body thrives on rhythm. Our circadian rhythm, our sleep cycle, our hormonal patterns, they all depend on consistency. Food is no different. When you provide your body with the same type of nutrient-dense, healing fuel day after day, your cells adapt to that rhythm. Your digestive system becomes more efficient, your hormones stabilize, and your metabolism gets locked into fat-burning mode. That's why people who commit to a healing meal plan not only see their health markers improve, but also feel more energetic, more focused, and more emotionally balanced. The consistency is what trains the body to operate at its best. Now, let's get into specifics. Imagine your plate, a large portion of leafy greens, some cruciferous vegetables, a generous serving of healthy fat like avocado or olive oil, and a clean protein source like eggs, grass-fed beef, or wild-caught fish. Simple, right, yet that combination creates an internal chemistry shift every time you eat it. The greens feed your gut bacteria and reduce inflammation. The healthy fats stabilize blood sugar and provide satiety. The protein rebuilds tissue and balances hormones. Layer upon layer, these effects accumulate. After a week, you feel less bloated. After a month, your blood sugar starts to even out. After 3 months, your lab work shows improvement. After 6 months, your doctor may start reducing your medications. And after a year, you may not even recognize the person you used to be. All of this from repeating one consistent meal. Here's the thing, variety is overrated. You don't need 50 different meal plans or exotic superfoods shipped from across the globe. Most of the healthiest, longest-lived populations in the world eat relatively simple, repetitive diets. The Okinawans, for example, eat vegetables, sweet potatoes, fish, and seaweed day after day, year after year. The Sardinians eat beans, greens, bread made from ancient grains, and goat's milk. They don't chase the newest fad, they stick with what works. That's the power of consistency. there's also a psychological effect. When you know you have a go-to-healing meal, you don't panic when life gets stressful. You're not tempted by every fast food option or every vending machine because you already have a plan, a default setting that keeps you aligned with your goals. And each time you choose that meal, you reinforce the identity of someone who is committed to health. Over time, this becomes automatic. It's no longer a struggle, it's just who you are. That's why people who commit to one consistent healing meal not only transform their health, but also feel a deep sense of control and confidence over their lives. Let's bring this back to heart disease and diabetes. These conditions don't develop overnight. They are the result of years, sometimes decades, of poor choices compounded over time. Every soda, every bag of chips, every slice of white bread, it all added up. But here's the good news, the reverse is also true. Years of damage can be undone by consistent choices in the opposite direction. Every healing meal you eat chips away at the inflammation, lowers the insulin load, and helps your body recover. It may take time, but the process is real, and the results are undeniable, and don't underestimate the ripple effect. When you eat consistently well, your sleep improves because your blood sugar isn't spiking at night. Better sleep lowers stress hormones, which further improves insulin sensitivity. Lower insulin means more fat burning, which reduces belly fat, a major risk factor for heart disease. Less belly fat lowers inflammation, which makes arteries more elastic and less likely to clog. Do you see how one consistent meal sets off a chain reaction? It's not just one improvement, it's dozens of improvements cascading throughout your system. Some people worry about boredom, but here's the thing, boredom is a mindset. When you start feeling the benefits, clearer skin, sharper focus, lighter body, better mood, the meal that gives you that becomes something you look forward to. And you can always rotate small variations. Swap spinach for kale, salmon for sardines, olive oil for coconut oil, while keeping the same healing template. That way, you keep it interesting without losing the consistency. There's another layer I want to touch on, emotional stability. Blood sugar swings don't just affect your body, they affect your mood, your patience, your ability to handle stress. High sugar means irritability, crashes, even anxiety and depression. But when you eat a consistent meal that stabilizes insulin, your brain chemistry steadies too. Serotonin and dopamine, your feel good neurotransmitters, aren't being hijacked by sugar highs and lows. That's why many people notice they feel calmer, more focused, even happier when they stick to one healing meal. It's not just physical healing, it's mental and emotional healing too. Now imagine multiplying this effect across months and years. Every time you choose that healing meal, you're adding deposits into your health bank account, and just like compound interest, the longer you stay consistent, the bigger the payoff. At first, you may only notice subtle changes, maybe your pants fit looser, or you don't need an afternoon nap. But fast forward 6 months, a year, 5 years, your risk of heart attack plummets, your risk of diabetes complications drops dramatically. Your energy is steady, your weight is under control, your medications are reduced or gone, and perhaps most importantly, you feel in charge of your health rather than at the mercy of it. Consistency also creates resilience. Life will always throw challenges, stress at work, family obligations, unexpected setbacks. If your health depends on extreme willpower or complex meal plans, you'll crumble when life gets tough. But if you've built your foundation on one consistent, healing meal, you have an anchor. Even if everything else feels chaotic, that one meal keeps you grounded, keeps you on track, and prevents you from sliding back into old habits. It's a safety net that protects your progress, and here's the truth. The people who succeed in reversing heart disease and diabetes are not the ones who do everything perfectly. They are the ones who stay consistent. They're the ones who keep coming back to the basics, who don't get distracted by every new diet trend, who trust the process and give their bodies time to heal. That's the real secret, not perfection consistency. So when I say one meal can reverse disease, I'm not exaggerating. One meal, repeated consistently, is all it takes to turn the tide. You don't need 100 different strategies. You don't need to complicate it. You don't need to feel overwhelmed. You just need to pick the right meal and commit to it. And when you do, that meal becomes more than food. It becomes medicine. It becomes momentum. It becomes your pathway back to health.